Hey,
Hello.
welcome to Kitchen Table Conversations with Multicultural Family Hub. I'm Kjessie,
And I'm Andre.
and we're here, folks. It is a beautiful Saturday, and we just got back from the beach. It's pretty wonderful. It's
Yes.
always healing
Yeah.
every single time. Our family shows up to the beach
We
in a very specific way.
have a very specific beach way of being, which
I don't think is culturally aligned.
no, we're not gonna end up on any front covers of any magazine with
Like
our
most
beach
time,
gear.
you come to the beach with like a wagon and the chairs and the tent and like the whole shebang. Our go-to, I think this is a hot tip, actually.
Yeah, this
Listen
could be
up.
very helpful.
Our go-to, huge blue IKEA bag.
Mm.
That huge blue IKEA bag can hold, that is the beach bag. And it is always ready to go with all the swimsuits,
Towels.
all the towels, and a beach blanket.
Yeah, that's
So
one.
we rolled to the beach with an IKEA bag. That's it. It is one of one.
Then we
That's
got
it. That is all we come with.
a big dirty blanket that you don't care about,
It fits in the IKEA bag, to be fair.
and then a bag full of snacks.
Yes.
That's it.
And surfboards.
Yeah, and surfboards or
Depending on the day.
depending on the day, and if not, that's all you need. And the one beach we go to, this is actually pretty cool. Before you even get to the beach, they have this bin that is
nice.
it's a bin that is anybody can put toys or things that they don't want to take home, or maybe they came on vacation and they flew on a plane and they bought all these beach toys and all that. So you can just go to this bin and it's full of
It's like a borrow bin.
plastic shovels and buckets and everything. So we don't even bring toys. We just
Best.
I let the kids go to the bin. They pull out some stuff. They use it for 2 hours. It goes back in the bin. In the car, gone.
It's pretty
So
great.
that's how we go to the beach.
So IKEA bag, you're welcome.
Tip of the day. All right, goodbye.
Bye, that was it. We today wanted to talk about multicultural mindset. We have said that term a few times, but we wanted to start digging into it for you so you have some concrete examples of how we use a multicultural mindset. In our last podcast with Dr. Ashley Rodriguez, which was amazing, you should go listen. It was such a good one. She talked quite a bit about staying out of the binary and out of the gray area as
In the gray area.
sorry, in the gray area. Rewind. Staying out of the black and white and in the gray in terms of thinking for healing and to be, she quoted that like, life is messy, and if we're always trying to stay in the black or the white, we miss the messy middle, which is essentially life. And so a lot of multicultural mindset is just that, is staying out of the black and white. And so we were going to talk about an example today that came up that is probably coming up for you as well, just because of the age that we're in, and that's screen time. So I was having thoughts, as I do often, and thoughts that were fear-based that were like, oof, are our kids having too much screen time? Because, right, we started a new school, we're back to school. And so we're hearing how other families are doing things, and then I start comparing. Maybe you can relate to that. So I grew up in a family that was really controlled, right? Like everything was you do this, you do this, you do this. There was a right way to do everything. Andre's family, you had a lot more freedom. You were kind of I would say, a latchkey kid to a degree.
Oh no, that's definitely the term they use for not just me. It was a whole crew of us. And for those who are familiar, I mean, I don't know how, I mean, maybe this is still a thing, but at least in the 90s, we were those kids who walked home from school, say the elementary school, walked home from school. There was a key. We didn't even have the key. The key was underneath the mat. It was underneath the pot. It was somewhere. You unlocked the door and you just kind of did your thing until your parent or parents got home, which, let's say if you get home from school at 3 and your parents aren't home till 5 or 6, sometimes later. So you got yourself a snack. Even if your mom and dad said, hey, don't watch TV or only watch an hour of TV or whatever, you turned on the TV, and you played outside. And if you had homework, maybe you did it, maybe you didn't. But yeah, there was every at the end of every day was this bookmark of time that was
Up to
long
you.
as you didn't get injured or burned down the house, that was kind of like a good day. It was like, oh, your parents came home and then life started, then whatever that routine started. But there was this gap for me. I think it was like 3 o'clock to like 5 or 6 or and sometimes I remember if my mom had to work late, she might call me and say, hey, I'm gonna be late, I'll be there at 7. And so there's a lot of freedom to make choices. And so yeah, that's definitely how I came of age, as they would say.
Yeah. So having that, so right, two different cultures, thinking about screen time. Mine is like Saturday morning cartoons, 30 minutes here, like very regimented versus it could happen or not. And it was up to the child, right? So two different cultures, which can cause conflict, right? So we've moved through a lot of pieces, but for me, it consistently comes up because my go-to via what I was modeled is like, oh, we should regulate it because like that's how you do it. And so you have all the screen time in the world over here and no screen time over here and thoughts about one is good, one is bad. And so with that scenario, how do we use our multicultural mindset to stay out of the all or nothing, good, bad, but to find our solution in the middle? So we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, and we're thinking like, what's the question that we ask when presented with these binaries? Screen good, screen time bad. These and the question I think that we've come up with that we like to really ask ourselves is having to do with, well, in this situation, let's forget about if it's good or bad. What is beneficial for me, and then what is beneficial for our children?
And I would say this is one of the
This
questions
is one
that we
question.
asked.
Yeah.
And you just got a really cool new job working in mediation. And this is can be part of a mediation framework as well. Can you explain that a little bit?
So when you're working in like mediation, whether it be with youth, adults, workplaces, things like that, you're trying to get the people that are in conflict to consider a mutual beneficial agreement. So it's not a win-lose thing. It's not a I get all I want or you get all I want. It's really saying, what's that creative sweet spot, that gray zone in which what we're deciding on is both beneficial for me and for you. And oftentimes the role of a mediator, the role of the person holding that space is really to create a space where people are allowed to move out of their binaries and come towards that gray zone and identify that answer to that question of what is a mutually beneficial solution in this situation for both folks.
In that situation, do you usually have them identify what's most important to them? Or how do people start to come towards a mutually beneficial solution?
I think it's with a lot of it's them answering a lot of questions that you're asking, for someone may say, well, I don't like the screen time. Someone may say screen time is bad. And your follow-up question may be like, tell me a little bit more. What's bad about it? And then they kind of start to answer those things. And maybe in the process of answering those things, you realize that, well, it might not be about the screen time itself. It might be about their fears or their anxieties or them or them wanting something that has nothing to do with computers or screens.
Well, in this situation, it's I would say, right?
Yes.
When you ask that, it's falling back on the culture.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up in a place that if you had regulated screen time, you were doing a good job, right? But full access to screens nonstop, that would be bad.
And on the other side of that, someone's like, well, I just feel like they should have complete freedom. And when I was a kid, I came home and I had complete freedom. And look, I turned out great.
I feel like that line is always a red flag.
And
just a second.
Yeah.
That line has come up for me a few times this week. This happened to me and I turned out great.
Well,
to me, that's a red flag because it means you're not willing to look. And you are saying, I am doing this because that was the way it was done. Again, kind of staying in the binary versus being like, oh, was that good for me? Is there another way to do it? And that's more multicultural mindset work. So yeah, one of those like I turned out okay. I did it that worked for me. It's like both defensive and like an unwillingness to be curious.
Yeah, and then that person might get that same question. Well, tell me a little bit more. What is it that is okay about you? And then that's where they find it. They may say, I'm independent, or I'm able to make decisions for myself, or I feel like I'm able to make choices of I decided I'd rather go play basketball on that day than do this. All these things. And what you really realize what they're saying is that um I don't is that there's a fear around losing loss of freedom, or fear around their kids and losing that ability to have freedom and choice. And so it's by asking those questions that pull you out of good or bad that you really get into, hold on, the conversation is not really about screen good or bad. The conversation is about values. Which ones do we want to keep? Which ones are actually mutually beneficial to both parent, child, or partner, or employer, employee? And so in the situation we're talking about with screen time, that's something we workshopped. Like, okay, what are the values that we're actually talking about when we say screen time? Screen time bad, screen time good. More screen time, less screen time.
When making that decision, like
Make that decision.
what are we basing making that decision on? And to deepen this example, I think it can be common for one parent to read something and be like, oh my goodness, we should have no screen time. And um, that parent might not be the primary caregiver. And the primary caregiver who is using screen time for an exhale, for a break.
Yeah.
Like that, to me, that can be so intense and can be so damaging. I feel like I was the primary caregiver for a long time, and being able to have however long we had decided that, like, okay, the kids are gonna sit down and watch three Blueies, right? Like those three Blueies are golden for someone that needs an exhale. It also, for me, that had been a tool to like bring our kids out of like we've super active kids.
I don't know where they get that from.
And there was nothing like a Bluey or Guess How Much I Love You to like
down regulate at least. Yeah.
Take it down a few notches so that by the time like when they came out of that situation, they were for me it was also making dinner.
Yeah.
Everyone right before dinner, I don't know why they call it the witching hour, but it is when everyone is just so cranky, a little hangry. You're smelling the smells from dinner, so everyone's kind of hungry.
Wondering when is it going to be done?
Like, oh, that is prime time moment for screen time. That when they were little, that was always my go-to, was like a pre-dinner show, and they looked forward to it. I looked forward to it. It made cooking so much more enjoyable.
It's even in that conversation, if we break that down, we're actually not talking about whether the screen is good or bad. What we're saying is that there's this tool that allows me, let's say if I'm the primary care person in this situation like you are, there's this tool that allows me, that supports me in being able to accomplish X, Y, and Z while my kids are enjoying X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And so we're not actually now. So if someone else came in the room and said, "Hey, I'll take your kids during that time and take them to go do an activity," and you're like, "Great."
Or I'm like, "No, it's screen time."
Yeah, you're like, "Great." But absence of someone coming in and providing that support, then you are, as the primary caregiver, going, "Okay, what tools are available to me for that 30 minutes or that 40 minutes?" Which we all need sometimes a little bit of break, because we're trying to do multiple things that have to happen, and we need a place for their attention to be, or for their bodies to just engage in for that period of time. So even in that, you could see where we're actually not talking about if a screen is good or bad. We're talking about support.
Right.
And we're talking about tools that we use for support when we don't have access to other physical adults. because maybe someone else is at work, or maybe you live in a place where you don't have family or immediate family around, or you have great friends, but those great friends at that same time of day are doing the same thing you are in their homes. So yeah, and so that I think is a great example of how that pulls us out of the binary into talking about a different conversation about values and support and things like that.
Yeah, and our more recent one was around it is just around, for me was around like are they get to do screen time after they do their homework from when they come home from school until close to dinner time.
Mm.
And so I was like, oh, you know how it bleeds. Screen time bleeds from 30 minutes to 45 to an hour. And if we're not clocked in on it, having boundaries can, it can be porous.
But the question you had asked me was, hey, are you concerned and you asked me a couple, you're like, oh, should we stop it? Should we get rid of it? Should we shorten it? It kind of came of like and it was like, okay, well, what framework do we use to make the decision going back to the multicultural mindset? And it was like, well, what's mutually beneficial in this situation regarding our kids screen time? What's mutually beneficial for us and for them? And then that led to a very different kind of conversation around it.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things we talked about that came up for us was, well, if we go in the binary and it's a no, then is that a no for just the kids, or is it a no for kids and
Well,
the
I had
adults?
suggested having a screen-free day.
Mhm.
Like, is that something we need to do? They're on screens every day. Is that a good idea?
And then I had said, okay, well, is that just the kids, or is that the whole shebang? Meaning me too, you too. And I can't do the whole thing where it's like, yeah, it's not a screen, I'm just listening to a podcast or whatever. Like, are we all off devices for that day? And then is that beneficial for both kids and us? And what does
that was in reference to like the screen-free day. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think, but what we were trying to get to was like, what is the values that we were considering? And one of the values we talked about was choice and freedom.
Yeah.
And if we stay in a binary of saying no or all that, yes, like at what point are they getting to exercise their choice and freedom in this decision?
As something that they really enjoy. So, and also to be clear, only 2 out of 3 are into screen time really at all.
Yeah.
I mean, our little girl's like, yeah, I'm good. But I'd rather draw or play or watch a TV show, which I guess is screen time, but different kind of screen time versus playing video games.
Yeah, and then once again, going out of binary, it was like, okay, well, and the question I had was, well, I'm a yoga practitioner, and there's times where I go to live classes and I enjoy that, but then there's a lot of times where I will practice online through an online yoga community that gives me access to a lot of different styles, a lot of different teachers, a lot of different content. Essentially, I have access to things I can never get in one studio. So I use a screen very often as a part of my wellness plan. Almost every day. We are recording this podcast through a screen. I love having access to, let's say, if I am working with a coworker and they have to do school pickup at 3 and we're supposed to meet at 2, if that person doesn't have to drive across town or sit in traffic just to get into a meeting and turn around and rush back out and we can Zoom it, I think that's amazing. It's an amazing tool to have that allows us to continue to show up as parents the way we want. But all of that, no matter what we say, it's done on a device. It's done on a screen. So does that make it good, or does that make it bad, or does it really go back to choice and freedom and being able to use something and view it as a tool rather than this binary, this is good, this is bad. And so that was one of our values, was choice and freedom, and going, okay, if that's our value for our kids and if that's a value for our family, what decision can we make about this that still allows for that choice and freedom?
But also is boundaried because we know it's like We know it's addictive.
Yes.
Like, and even it's hard because it's a battle to set boundaries because is there resistance every single time? Just about. For one of the three, when it's like, okay, it's time, like we're shutting it down, we're done. Like it's every single time someone wants more. And that's what it's designed for, right? Same thing. Like I stay up
Same thing with adults.
way too late on Instagram and I will blow through all the reminders. And I know for me, that is a struggle.
Do you think that the reason why we get pulled into the black and white on this specific topic is because the reality is like it's not necessarily so much our worry about our kids, it's actually like we see our own struggle with this.
I think it's a mix. For me personally, it's a mix of both things that um when something has the potential to be dangerous, it should be boundary. That's like a cultural story, right? And other people have lots of different thoughts on different subjects. But like if it has the potential to be dangerous, it should be boundaried. Other people would argue no, total freedom, right? So there's that. And I also think the more that I have found myself in that hole, the more I am like, wow, if this is what it's doing to my brain, oof, like that, I just have empathy. So in some ways, it makes setting the boundaries easier and holding them because it's like, if it's this hard for me, it's hard for you. And I recognize that, but we're still going to hold them.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because you talked about impact on your brain, and I think once again, staying out of the black and white, I think I remember at one point listening to an interview, it was Tom Hanks, and who sounds like he was very much on the latchkey kid
Right.
lifestyle. And he said, I spent hours of my childhood.
Yeah.
Hours. Now, was it screen time? No, but it was TV, just watching TV. And I don't know him, but when he's describing, and they talk about like his acting and his this desire to create and all, and he said it like it came from my deep love of watching content, watching
Television.
TV, watching
That's
television.
all there was, television.
Wait, and so it's like, wait a minute, in that brain, for whatever reason, and I can't even speculate, it ignited this creative, insane desire and passion that's led him to be one of the most accomplished actors, lifetime, and directors and writers. Same, yeah, people know I'm a Star Wars fan. Same thing, you really go behind the scenes with someone like George Lucas, and not just George Lucas, the whole team he worked with, from animators to robotics to his friends that he knew that worked on cars in Central California that he brought in. When you listen to them talk, all of them had this very same, like, I would come home from school and I would watch these things, these movies, or I would use my money and I would go to the movie theater and watch the same movie over and over and over and over.
Trying to figure out how they did that.
Trying to figure out how they did that. And so once again, if we let ourselves come out of the binary with this, I think there is a room to also go, each human being, each adult, and even each kid watches and it watches it, engages it, and has a different relationship with it. Like I know our oldest, watching him watch stuff, he's insanely interested while watching it. How did they make that? How did they do that? How could I figure out how to how can I learn coding?
He always waits to the end of the movie so that he can see the sketches.
The sketches, the
like,
storyboards.
oh yeah, he always wants to see the storyboards.
Wants to watch the documentary on how they made Avatar or how they made Star Wars. I mean, these are long, technical, and then now, even now he's in a STEAM program, and they're learning code. They're learning code, they're learning commands, they're learning how to make their own video games. And so I think once again, when we let ourselves out of the binary, we can also leave space for, it might be, and this is hard as a parent, that engaging with screens has an actual different impact on each person, depending on a lot of different, factors. And I think once again, it's easier to get pulled into it's good or it's bad, versus when you kind of let that come into play, then you're like, oh, might be not a great thing for this kid, really empowering for this one. Needs to be limited here. This one can handle more of it. All of those all those questions. And so for us, it was looking at what our values were to draw us out of the binary
And
decide.
looking at, is it mutually beneficial?
That's is the big one. You wanna
And
talk
so,
about that?
yeah, I just think that was the one that we landed on. Kind of one of the main questions with this one is, how was screen time mutually beneficial or not? Because like an earlier example, and now one that is pertinent to right now, is screen time continues to offer this like down regulation of their little bodies after a long day at school, and also kind of lets us ease into dinner. It still is like, in some ways, it's still the same thing, where it's like that challenging time period where everyone's in flux, and then allows everyone to come to dinner. And then after dinner, there's also, it allows their brains time. We usually eat pretty early. And so then we'll go to the park and play, throw a ball with the dog, usually have a pack of kids throwing a ball with the dog. So, okay, side shoot, but so funny. So I don't know if all wiener dogs are this fast, but our little wiener dog is so fast. And so we go to the park every night, and usually there's a pack of kids playing. And by the time we leave, that pack of kids is usually racing our wiener dog. I have yet to see when they actually start at the same time. Nobody beats her.
No.
She's so fast. So we'll be throwing a ball, and there'll just be a pack of kids trying to catch her.
Yeah.
So side note, so doing it earlier in the day, like that's mutually beneficial, allows us to have after dinner time that is fun. And so because they got to do the thing that they wanted after school, then they are willing to engage and play. And it makes bedtime a lot more mellow too, because they haven't had all that blue light right before bed. So in that way, we found, it's mutually beneficial for not just, so it's mutually beneficial for between the kids and us, because there is not conflict after school. There's a boundary that we do homework first, then screen time. When we first established that, that was not fun, but now it's a known, right? So holding those things, it's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not fun to have to like hold those boundaries. But the benefit in the long run has been really solid, because now it's like, okay, now it's a precedent that we do the homework, we have the screen time, we have the dinner, and then we move our bodies. And that has been good for all of us.
Yeah, and I think the hard part for us as parents or adults to swallow on that mutually beneficial is to be able to say that something that, you might be hearing someone say to you, like, this is all bad. To say,
Yeah.
well, a part of it or aspects of it are actually mutually beneficial for me and my family. And so we're going to use that tool in a certain way. Like that there is a shame, you know what I mean? You kind of have to get over like the parent shame culture to be able to say, yeah, I hear you, but I think that we can use this in a way that works for us and be okay with that. Once again, I think on no matter what side people are on, I think there's always this pull to like be all or be all. You know what I mean? Whether it's all good or it's all bad, or parents should always do this or should never do this. And for the multicultural mindset, when you hear things like never, and you hear people like all should, that's probably a good time to kind of go inward and once again look at your values and kind of say, okay, what's mutually beneficial for us around this topic? And in this case, for us, it was with screen time, and it's something that we probably will always continue to evaluate and will change as they get into middle school, and then you get to high school, and look different.
Yeah, I think the language of never and always, those typically don't fit in a multicultural framework.
No, they don't. And I think when those are applied, very, very, very oftentimes they don't lead to healing and they don't lead to wellness. I think they actually lead to fracturing. And so those are just some good ones, even when we're out in this parent world, when you hear the no, the always. And some of those words, it kind of lets you know, okay, we're in the binary. Even if it's not something that you opted into, it's like, okay, we're in the binary on this topic. And so how do we step out of that? Yeah. Yeah. So that's our most recent example. Let us know. How's it going for you? School's back in. How are you navigating it? The other part I was going to say is screen time is not always an issue at home. Your kids might be at a school or education setting where either they're on screens, they're on Chromebooks, or the teacher might have a screen behind them, teaching lessons. It's probably not a chalkboard with chalk with the dust flying everywhere. It probably might not be in a whiteboard now. I was just doing a workshop at a school setting, and it was a smartboard, the whole thing. And so that's a screen. All of these things. So yeah, we want to know what your experience is right now, and how you can apply this mindset and this framework to your decision making.
I encourage you to whatever's coming up for you right now. Maybe it's not screen time with kids. Yeah, I mean, I feel like technology is probably one of the most challenging moments with kids with phones. Um, like what boundaries or challenges are you running up against that maybe you and your partner struggle to get on the same page with? And can you ask yourself, how is this mutually beneficial for between the two of us and for our kids? And kind of landing in that gray area that and a lot of it is uncomfortable. I want to recognize that too. It can be so much more comfortable just to stay in the path that you know. So I want to recognize that this is uncomfortable work. And when you come to a decision where you are in the gray area, it's going to feel uncomfortable because you are moving out of the lane that you were trained in, right? That cultural lane that you were trained in. And so when you take even just one step to the left, it's really uncomfortable. So that just I remember when I was taking an adult ballet class, the teacher, who's a friend and is wonderful, was like, if everything kind of hurts and feels really awkward, you're probably doing it right. Just in terms of foot position and the muscles that are sore. And I feel the same way with some of this work with building new pathways where you are moving from your channeled grooves of like, this is the way you do it to like, ooh, okay, we're gonna choose this over here, and it's not gonna be comfortable because you are stepping away from good or bad and stepping into that gray area. And I want to applaud you for that because it is challenging work and it takes more work than just to listen to what your culture says, what the other moms are saying, what other friends at school are saying. And I do think it's helpful, and I'm so thankful for a partner with another opinion. And that is the magic of multiculturalism, is you are going to have another opinion no matter what. So I can bring something up and it's not just going to be mirrored. It's going to be like, oh, actually, this is my experience, which is totally different than mine. And usually finding that gray space is where the magic happens.
Yeah. All right. And so thank you all for being here, and we hope to keep sharing. We will keep sharing more of our stories on how we take this framework and we use it and we apply it to everyday life and everyday things. So we're on the journey with you. It's not like we have it figured out. It's just that these are the conversations that we're having, and we think there are more of you out there having the very similar conversations. So we'd love to hear from you, and we kind of keep sharing.
So thanks so much for your time and attention.
Right.
We'll chat again soon.
Bye.
Bye.